It is a tradition at ASB for the senior class to choose a peer to represent them at graduation. I would now like to invite Noah Abdeen to the podium to introduce our student speaker.
Good evening. It gives me great pleasure to have this opportunity to introduce our class speaker, Oscar Paul George Lacuille. What has felt like a very long time has only been 2 short years with my dear friend Oscar. From the first time meeting him in J. Roy's math room to this moment, Oscar has been one of my closest friends at ASB. I want to tell a story about a little adventure that we had this last month trying Bombay's infamous train system. We were making our way back to South Bombay in a taxi when Oscar randomly suggested we take the train from the Bandra terminus to Mahalakshmi station. At that point, all I had heard about the train system here was that it was dangerous, packed with people, and smelled like the local fish market. So I thought, why in the world would Oscar be asking me to take the train? He said, "Don't worry about it, bro. I have an app on my phone which tells us the times of every single train." So I said, fine. We get to Bandra terminus, and Oscar, filled with confidence, walks up to the ticket counter and speaks in what almost sounds like full Hindi. "Boss, do ticket Mahalakshmi station." And before the ticket person could even reply, he said, "First class, boss." I'm standing here amazed by my friend's courage to go through with this, but then after it was all over, I was so glad that I got to experience something new. Now, catching the train is no big deal, but without Oscar, I would have never taken a step on that train. So Oscar, I thank you for taking the initiative and seizing those opportunities that pushed each one of us out of our comfort zones. We have had amazing times together, and I'm sure there are many more to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. It's such a pleasure to have such a friend as Noah. Sorry. Ivory, do you remember when I was a student and you were a student and we went to school together in India? For those of you who don't know this is a modified version of a quote from the Threepenny Opera, written by Bertolt Brecht. Brecht was a German theater maker whose work explored the experience of existing and realizing that you are existing, specifically in regards to theater. Brecht hoped to, in his work, make the strange familiar and the familiar strange, which, in the case of this class, is something very relevant. Keep this quote in mind. For teachers, repeat to remember and remember to repeat. Now, on my way to this beautiful graduation ceremony, I saw 3 goats on the sidewalk in the middle of a city of 18 million people. When it's put that way, it sounds a little strange, but the reality is that for all of us, this has become so familiar. To the average inhabitant of this city, seeing livestock roam around freely is completely normal. That is an isolated case, though. If your average American, for instance, saw goats in the street in the middle of New York, there would be some sort of reaction, some sort of bell going off in the brain. Attention, attention, there is a live goat in the middle of this urban area. We, however, have grown accustomed to seeing this. There's a name for this. It's called habituation. Get ready. Habituation is a form of learning in which an organism decreases or ceases to respond to a stimulus after repeated presentations. Essentially, the organism learns to stop responding to a stimulus which is no longer biologically relevant. Copyright I'm sorry. For example, take a snail. If you touch a snail with a leaf, it will withdraw into itself for protection. However, take the same snail, except he/she now lives in a forest. This is hell for the snail. He has to withdraw all the time. He doesn't have time to do anything else. He's just constantly withdrawing. And after that, he has to hide for prolonged periods in the safety of his shell. Something needs to be done. Through the process of habituation, he habituates himself to the leaves touching him until he stops withdrawing onto himself. I, along with my classmates, like the snail, have stopped being shocked by the incredible varied stimuli that constitutes daily life in India. All of us here have experienced habituation. In it that we have become familiar with all of the extraordinary, amazing, somewhat crazy and intense things that are unique about India. India, which is an exponentially diverse country, the number of dialects, cultures, subcultures, religions is simply incredible. And for many of us, this has become completely normal. An example. Every year, more than 150,000 statues of Ganesh, some which could fit in the palm of my hand, others which would not fit on this stage, are submerged into the Arabian Sea. Now, the first time I was subjected to this, I went wild. However, having it seen so many times, I have grown accustomed to it, and now there is no more bell. My reaction has decreased to, let's simply just plan more time, bro, there's traffic. It's become normal to us, but to others not familiar with it, it is the most exotic thing they have ever heard of. One person's exotic is another person's ordinary. And since we're speaking about putting idols into the ocean, I think we ought to mention Pamela Anderson of our class, our friend, Benjamin. Benjamin is a lifeguard at Juhu Beach, probably the best one of them, considering he took his test 7 times. Only twice. On the weekends, you can spot him in his Union Jack shorts, sun-kissed, scrutinizing the crashing waves, ready to leap out of his chair. Ben is exotic. Ben is hot. Ben is cool. Next year, however, he'll be in England. Will he lose or his appeal in his Union Jack shorts and pasty skin? No longer will Ben be the sexy lifeguard when he's in Cornwall. And now that we're talking of the aesthetics of dreamlike men and their feature, this is a shout out to someone behind me. How many of you here saw someone with a mustache? If so, please raise your hand. No one's raising their hand. No one saw someone with a mustache today? I see one right there in the audience now. I don't know, this kind of failed, but for those of you who didn't raise your hand, it's because you've become so habituated with it, you don't even notice them anymore. Everybody here has a mustache. Everybody here has a mustache. It's uncanny. In the Western world, if you found yourself surrounded by 57 men, all with mustaches, chances are you're either having some sort of bizarre 1980s flashback, or you were just in a fire and are surrounded by firemen. Be careful, class. Next year, there will be no more mustaches, no more goats, no more rickshaws, no more shawarmas, aggressive crows, or Sark Heritage poolsides. Loads of memories and first times there for many of us. We've habituated ourselves to all these things, so next year, it might be a big doll. Next year, it's going to be... I didn't lose why I was in my speech. I actually have no idea. I know what it's not going to be like. Anshul, there's not going to be a booming sight scene in New York. Nikita, you, that put so much of your environment into your art, causing a color explosion, I'm afraid that you moving to Glasgow might mark the start of your gray period. There are some positive things, though. Ziva, you'll be able to end this war with by thieving crows and exit the Hitchcockian nightmare you've been living. And Chaley, Karsten, you will only grow tired with the nights of cuddling in the forest for warmth, praying that you'll get out of this Minnesotan forest alive, after you have made the mistake of going for a hike in the middle of winter. But of course, I have some notion of what life at uni or college is going to be like. I've heard of some concepts. There's one, very perplexed. It's called Freshman 15. Do you know about this, Noah? What's your attack plan for dodging that? Supposedly, freshmen upon arriving to college put on 15 pounds. But why? Is it the new, more sedentary lifestyle? The beef jerky? You won't be special anymore, Raute. Or is it the cafeteria food? By the way, Aditya, I doubt they offer the 8-meal-a-day plan with the bring-your-own Tupperware option. No, but really, it's bizarre. These are new, young, independent adults living alone, and they're putting on 15 pounds? How could that be? You know what else? Today, I am happily standing in this well-ironed shirt and gown, not because of Mr. Bishop's ironing class that we're still waiting on, and he's not behind me, he's there, but because my loving father Benoit was able to do it for me. Next year, though, Viraj, will you be able to handle all your delicate wash-by-hand clothing? Laundry sounds hard. I have a friend that graduated last year who, back in September, called me confused from the washing powder aisle in the supermarket, asking me, yo, can you ask your mom whether or not it's worth it for me to buy these shout color-catching sheets? It says here they're meant to prevent discoloration from your laundry. No, dude, like, separating my clothes takes way too long. So I went to my mother, who, on her computer, gave me a hasty, oui. Unfortunately, 3 hours later, he called me again. He said, all my white shirts have turned light pink. Horrific. Can you imagine if this happened to you, Anshel? Wouldn't you be devastated? Actually, wait. I just had a realization. Allow me to freeball the rest of this speech. Do you guys realize that next year we're going to have the whole process of habituation happen again that we've had with India, but in university? One massive thing which we'll have to habituate ourselves to is independence. Sure, we may think we're independent here because, we can go around the city with drivers and there are convenient, cheap cabs everywhere, and there's always a hot meal at home or a mom to give you breakfast when you're late to class. Not possible in uni, Ishan. Is that independence, though? What is independence? Are we independent? Am I independent? I just tore my speech. That's pretty independent. Actually, it's pretty irresponsible. This is what next year's going to be like. Chances are it's going to be everything but what we've experienced so far. Laundry, not having a safety when the alarm doesn't ring. Cooking, having to make your own bed if you want it to be nice at night. Handling a budget. Learning to make our own right and wrong decisions. Cleaning, being alone. It all sounds a bit dull, all very quelconque, ordinary. But having said all that, though, I feel just like the young snail I once was when I came to India. We may have become accustomed to all these crazy things happening around us, but it took time and support. Next year, we're only going to have time. But it's not a depressing speech. There's an uplifting ending. We, as a class, are terrific at habituating. We've done it with list. Cows, goats, rickshaws, crazy traffic, the Indian Standard Time, what food won't get you sick, what food will get you sick, IB, the heat, I could go on. Out of all the people I've met in the world, you are the most tolerant, inquisitive, and habituation-ready people that I know. So, when thinking about next year, even if compared to all this amazing life that we've lived, it may sound a bit dull. Remember that we have managed to turn the extraordinary into simply ordinary. So I know for a fact that we can all turn the ordinary into extraordinary. Get the bell ringing. It's such an honor to be able to graduate with a group of such terrific individuals. I wish the best for all of us next year. Good luck. Thank you.